The main disagreement between you and Professor Chomsky is obviously over the sort of right-left paradigm. He is a left-wing libertarian and an anarcho-syndicalist. You're a right-wing libertarian or an anarcho-capitalist. And I just wanted to get your...
let me stop you there.
Okay.
I'm not a right-wing anything.
Okay.
He can call himself a left-winger if he wants, and he is a socialist anarchist. He believes stuff like money is no good, and money is the root of all evil, and capitalism is no good, and profits are evil, and stuff like that. But I'm not a right-winger. I resist being characterized as on the right hand of the scale. My view is I don't know, I'm a centrist, I'm a moderate, I don't know how to characterize myself. I'm a libertarian. And I'm not a right-wing libertarian nor a left-wing libertarian, nor am I a right or a left-wing person on the spectrum. Yes, I agree with the conservatives a little bit more in economics than on personal liberties, and I agree with the left a little bit more in personal liberties than on economics, and I agree with neither of them on foreign policy, although I certainly agree with Chomsky on that. So I resist the notion that I'm a right-wing person, a right-wing libertarian or on the right or anything like that. I'm just a plain old ordinary moderate anarcho-capitalist libertarian.
Okay. So it sounds like you'd ascribe more to the Nolan chart political compass, right? The diamond
the Nolan
shaped
chart is really good, except they don't have foreign policy in there. They have economics and they have personal liberties.
That's true.
And I am 100% with the Nolan chart on those issues. I'm a full free enterpriser on economics and also a full libertarian on personal liberties.
So I think that left-wing libertarians, they have a couple of criticisms. One that I hear often is they get very upset because they created the term libertarianism. I believe the first person to use the word was an anarcho-communist, and the original libertarian tradition, depending, you can go back to the Levelers in the English Civil War, but as far as like Proudhon and Bakunin and Kropotkin, they were all left-wingers, and they kind of consider... I've heard Noam Chomsky say, he said, American libertarianism isn't really libertarianism because it is an aberration. It's capitalist as opposed to socialist. And I think that part of the critique that I've heard about this is that they consider capitalism as necessarily tied up in the state, and specifically property rights and land titles that necessarily requires the state. And in a stateless society, you couldn't have those. And again, I know you consider yourself an anarcho-capitalist, and you believe that contracts and voluntary association and property rights can exist without the state. So could you maybe just, again, paint in broad strokes how you could have things like a land title or contracts or limited liability corporations without a state to codify all those things?
Before I answer your question, I am also a professor, and I'm not allowed to answer any question directly. I have to go circuitously.
Okay.
So let me just say that I'm also an anarcho-socialist. I'm a socialist. I believe in voluntary socialism. I believe in the kibbutz, given that the kibbutz is voluntary and they don't take up people's property. I believe in from each according to his ability, to each according to his need, if it's voluntary. I have a daughter. She's now 35, but when she was 3 years old, she ate in accordance with not her ability to produce income, but in accordance with her need. So I'm a voluntary socialist. I'm just against coercive socialism. Coercive socialism is, you're in the commune whether you like it or not. I don't want to join necessarily the Soviet commune, but I might enjoy, being a hippie commune or a kibbutznik or something like that. The same thing with capitalism. I'm not for crony capitalism. I'm only for laissez-faire capitalism. So I think I said my views wrong before when I said I'm an anarcho-capitalist. I'm just as much an anarcho-socialist as I am an anarcho-capitalist. I'm a voluntarist. I'm a voluntarist libertarian. Now let me get a little closer to your question. Yes, we stole that word, but we stole it fair and square without giving it back. Ha ha ha. They started the word libertarian. We got it now. Tough rocks or whatever. They stole a lot of words from us. We used to have liberal, classical liberal, and then they took over liberal, and they dispersed it so much that they're no longer even call themselves liberal, and now they call themselves progressives. So, yes, he's right. Technically, we did steal the word libertarian, but we stole it fair and square. I'm just kidding. Do you really need the state in order to uphold private property rights. Well, I believe in private property rights in the person. I own the person that is now speaking to you, and you own the person that is now speaking to me. And if I punch you in the nose, unless we're in a boxing ring and we've agreed to punch each other above the belt, but all of a sudden I haul off and punch you over there in Connecticut, I've got a long arm. Well, I've just violated your private property rights. Now, do you need a state to stop me? Why can't you have private police? I don't see why a private police company can't, put me in jail or punish me in some way for gratuitously punching you. Right now we have more private police than we have government police in the United States. A lot of these people are in shopping malls and, guarding hotels and stuff like that. So I don't see why you need a government, and now we have to define what a government is. What a government is, well, let me define anarchism. Anarchism is the prefix an, anarchism. So what is archism? Archism is unjustified rule. So anarchism is against unjustified rule. So what a government is the embodiment of unjustified rule, because the government taxes you. And then they say, well, it's really like club dues or something. The club dues, like the golf club or the tennis club or the chess club, you have to agree to be part of it. Nobody agreed to be part of the U.S. club. There's no U.S. club. There's a U.S. government. And I didn't sign on anything agreeing to be part of it. You didn't. So why should I accept its arbitrary rule? Now, there's good pragmatic reasons why I should. If I don't, they'll put me in jail, and I pretty much obey the law on that ground. But on ethical grounds, I don't see why I should obey any of its edicts, and up to and including paying taxes to it. So I strongly disagree with Professor Chomsky, who says that if you're going to have private property or corporations or anything like that, you need a government. No, you just need the forces of law and order who could be private. Now, a limited liability corporation, look, you and I, Steve, we now go into business and we're going to produce, shoelaces. And what we do is we announce to everyone that we put each $100,000 into our company. And if you sue us, we're only liable up to that $200,000. You can't sue us for our private fortunes. And now somebody agrees to buy a shoelace, and somehow he chokes himself with it, and he sues us. Not that his case would be right, because, poor little shoelace didn't do anything. But suppose the shoelace exploded. Don't ask. Okay. And now he sues us. Well, we should pay him because, an exploding shoelace is a problem.
Sure.
But we're only liable for the $200,000. And this is contractual. Namely, he agreed when he bought the shoelace from a limited liability corporation, such as the Walter Steve Corporation, to produce the exploding shoelaces. He agreed that he would only sue us for the money we put into it. So I don't see why you need a government or anything like that to promote property rights or profits or anything like that.
I guess I'm still kind of missing it because, again, if who incorporates a corporation in a stateless society?
Well, I don't know. You and I, we go down to some private registry. And we go to the private registry and we say, hey, we want to have a private registry corporation. We pay them $100 or whatever it is. And now we put a little sign on every shoelace that we sell, and we say we're incorporated. And then everyone realizes that if they deal with us, they're dealing with a limited liability corporation. We're only responsible for the money we put into the corporation. And if you don't like it, you consumer of shoelaces, go to another shoelace company where they're not a limited liability corporation, and then you can sue them for their private fortunes as well as the money that they put into it. So we would have a private registry, and we would have a private court. By the way, the American Arbitration Association is sort of like a private court. And a lot of companies now, they say, look, we're selling you this motorcycle on the condition that if you don't like it, you won't go to the government court, but you'll go to our court. Well, you're just as free to not buy their motorcycle if you're worried about the veracity of their court. So I don't see why armies, courts, police, and other public goods, supposedly of government, are necessarily a monopoly of government. Why can't you have private people doing this? And let me add one more on this, and that is, what is now the relationship between Canada and China? What is the relationship between Argentina and Albania? I say it's one of anarchism, because there is no world government. So if Albania and Argentina get into a squabble, they can't go to a government. So does that mean that that somehow you can't register things, you can't have private property rights between the Albanians, the Chinese, the Canadians, and the Argentinians? No. Look, the whole idea of government is you and I, Steve, might get into a fight. Not in a boxing ring where we've agreed to be in a fight, but in a fight. And we need a government to somehow make sure you and I behave with regard to each other. Well, Albania and Argentina might get into a fight. Do we need a government to make sure that they don't? Well, happily, we don't have a world government. We have anarchism between countries, and there's nothing wrong with anarchism between countries, and you can still have private property rights and profits and limited liability corporations between the Albanians and the Argentinians by agreement. So I think that I would disagree with Professor Chomsky on that matter.